Eyewitness News presents Newsmakers with your hosts, Jayne and Bugda and Andy Mahalchik.
Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Jayne and Bugda. Today, a unique snapshot of our region, courtesy of the Institute. Their research helps business and community leaders plan the future for our area. I will be joined by the Executive Director of the Institute, and our conversation will begin when this edition of Newsmakers returns right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Jayne and Bugda, and the topic of conversation today is the Institute. They are the people behind the annual indicators report that is just about ready to come out for this year, for the 2022. So we're going to talking with Teri Ooms. She is the Executive Director of the Institute. And Teri, you've been doing this for quite some time now, so you've seen a lot of changes in our region.
Yes, our first indicators report was in 2006, and we're about ready to produce the final version of 2022.
So it'll be fresh off the presses and fresh on the internet coming up soon. So for our viewers who may not know what the Institute is, just give them a little glimpse of what it has a big long name. Yeah. But we just call it the Institute right now. So.
Yes, the Institute is a unique partnership of higher education and business. And it was formed back in 2004 as a collaboration of the two. We have 13 higher education partners between Lackawanna and Luzerne County, and about an equal number of private sector business partners that serve as the advisory board for the organization. And our job is data. We analyze existing data, we go out and procure our own data, we analyze the results, we present the findings, we talk about innovative solutions in an effort to help the public, private, nonprofit, and institutional sectors make more informed choices.
And every year when the book comes out and the data comes out, it's very interesting. There's always little fascinating nuggets of information that are used by our community leaders. So let's talk a little bit about the people behind the research. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of research that's being done. So tell us a little bit about your team.
Oh, we have an incredible team. Andrew Chu is our Director of Research, and he's been with us now. It'll be 8 years this July. He started as an analyst and worked his way up. He's got an incredible background in urban planning and analytics. Dr. Jolene Carey-Pace is a research analyst on our team, and she's fairly new, joining us last October, but has an incredible background in qualitative data analysis and research methodology. Jill Avery-Stoss is our Director of Operations, and she supports the data management, the client activity, and one of our bigger programs, because we are part of higher education, is our student practicums. So we have undergraduate and graduate students that do internships with us, and we teach them about analytics and research methodology. And we support students at both the medical school and the Wright Center for Graduate Medical Education in their research endeavors, doing analytics and report writing. And then we have Sarah Bender, who is very new to our team as a research assistant. She was actually one of our research interns a few years ago. And so that's it. There's 5 of us doing the work behind the scenes right now.
And it's a lot of work. So tell us a little bit some of the key findings in this year's report.
Well, now, interestingly enough, the data that we're looking at now is 2019 and 2020. So we're starting to see the influences of COVID come out with the data. And we have some challenges with the data because, as you know, the 2020 census was cut short. And because of the pandemic, wasn't able to get as much concentration in all of the communities. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of lawsuits going on right now about that. And the census, we love decennial census year because that's when the data is new and it's fresh, and it's before they develop all of these algorithms and estimates. So what we've been doing is trying to support that secondary data that we get from all of the public sources with our primary work. So we've been, I don't want to say out in the community because we've been doing it via Zoom and phone calls and things like that, pulling together sets of data. And I think, I'm not sure if there's a lot of surprises in the data, but obviously, you know, when COVID hit, major economic strife. However, not as much as in most areas. We have a very strong logistics and distribution network here, as well as third-party logistics firms. And when everybody started doing all of their shopping online, these firms went crazy. And so they actually generated significant jobs through the pandemic and had a hard time keeping people because, of course, working in those environments in a pandemic is not exactly safe. Other areas have suffered. Now what we're seeing is that a lot of people have left the workforce. So the sheer number of our labor force is contracted. Some have retired early. There's a lot of entrepreneurship going on where people are starting their own businesses. And some are just trying to weather the storm. They either have daycare issues or elder care issues, or they themselves are somewhat immunocompromised, so they don't feel that they could work. So we're in a situation now where unemployment is low because our labor force shrunk, yet our businesses are struggling to find and keep people and are growing and need more people. So it's a very unusual situation for us here in northeastern Pennsylvania. But only part of it is due to the pandemic. We noticed this about 2 years prior to the pandemic, that employers started complaining about finding qualified people. And when you start to look at the numbers and understand the demographics of our country, you start to realize why we're in a very unique position. The baby boomers were the largest generation in the country and span the longest period of time. Well, about 2 years ago, the first wave of baby boomers started to retire. What's happened after that, however, is the generations are smaller. So you have to think of our population like a funnel. At the top where it's wide, you've got the seniors retiring, starting to retire, moving up, but that pipeline of workers behind them is less in sheer numbers. And this is a national issue. So what that means is we as a region have to work very hard to retain our workers, to attract new workers to the region, because the more regions across the country competing, the more challenging it gets. But the regions that are successful are the ones that are going to remain economically viable and sustainable.
And I know when you have been here in the past, we've always talked about, jobs, and we always say, oh yes, this is a good job market, there's always good jobs here. And in the past, we've had a lot of industries that are growing. Is there one or two industries that seem to be growing more around northeastern and central Pennsylvania?
Yes, healthcare and logistics seem to be growing. But in the overall picture, there's a lot more job opportunity than that, because we can't only look at industry growth, we have to look at what's called replacement demand. And that's that backfilling of those retirees. And that's where it's an incredible time to be someone looking for work or to be graduating and going into the workforce, because there are incredible opportunities regardless of your education and skill level. And so it is a good time to be looking for work, a good time to upgrade your skills, because there's new opportunities that are available.
I know on your Facebook page you put little vignettes on there that sometimes explain, and I invite people to look at your Facebook page and your website, because it is very interesting. You learn about the region and you learn about what jobs are out there. And I know you did one recently on healthcare. And I thought it was very interesting because we do have schools around here for nursing, for physician assistants. We have a medical school. So you would think that we would have this great resource. What keeps the people from not staying here? Is it pay, or what is that?
Well, don't forget that a lot of people that come to school here come from somewhere else, and they want to go back to where they came from. So that's part of the problem. Another reason that we've uncovered is we operate a polling center within the Institute, and twice a year we poll our college students. So for all the students from our 13 education partners. And in the fall, we talk about public policy issues, about what's important to you. And in the spring, we say, okay, what's next? Well, a lot of people choose to leave, whether they're from here or from somewhere else, because they really don't believe there's economic opportunity here. So I think that creates an incredible opportunity for our institutions, for our economic development organizations, and even our businesses to make sure these students are aware of the attributes of Northeastern Pennsylvania in terms of the job market. The quality of life isn't too bad either, but there is economic opportunity here, and I think that's what we have to get across to the students. Our presidents group, which is the presidents and chancellors of our 13 academic partners, have been meeting separately, and we're talking about putting together a campaign to better educate and inform our current students, and to go back and educate and inform the alumni, so people that graduated from those institutions and left. And so we're in the final stages of the research now, looking very granular at what people believe and what people want. And then we're going to get the marketing professionals in to help put together a strategic campaign to do that education component.
I think that's very interesting, because I think there's a lot of time we see that there are people here who think, oh, we have great programs, great, resources right here. And then when it comes to hiring, they're not here. And I think that would be interesting to find out, what would attract these young people just to stay around and maybe make this area their home. Another thing I want to talk about, you had touched upon it a little bit about population trends. And so our population, is it a younger population or more of a older population?
We're getting older.
Okay.
So is the whole country.
Right.
But we've always had a higher median age than most regions. And so that's starting to show. And then that in and of itself does hit the workforce issue harder. But what it also does is create demand for more goods and services that seniors need. Healthcare is a big one. Home health care, nursing, physical therapists, individuals like that can support the aging population. And that's where we need to look for the future, is making sure that we can especially grow our healthcare workers to meet with the demand that our region is going to continue to demonstrate.
So our schools, should they be maybe our high schools and our maybe guiding students more towards these industries? Are they are helping them, when you have a senior or somebody saying, I'm looking for something to do, should our schools be saying, well, maybe this is a field that you should be looking into?
I think the schools can play a very critical role in educating the students about the community. I think it has to start in middle school, because by the time you're in 8th grade, you're starting to pick your coursework for high school, and you need to get some ideas. I think we need to understand not every student is meant for a 4-year degree, and we have incredible community college and a technical school that provide 2-year degrees. Now, if you're into computers and networking and software, credentialing and certificate are the way to go. The trades are huge. Have you called a plumber and then had to wait 2 or 3 days until they were free for you? I'm telling you, there are job opportunities for everybody. But the thing is awareness, and that has to start at a young age, followed by equal access to opportunity, because we do have a larger population that lives in poverty in the region, and part of the challenge is individuals living in poverty are focused on meeting basic needs. So things like education and training opportunities and good jobs, there's really a disconnect on how to access them, what you need to be or do to be able to be eligible to qualify. And so there is a group of people that we need to cultivate and sort of help push along to get into the workforce, or students that are coming up to get them prepared.
And I know we talked a little bit about, you mentioned that we're a growing older population. Do we have enough services and resources for our aging population?
I do not believe so. I think we're starting to experience the beginnings of a healthcare worker shortage. If you have a need for a specialist, you're sometimes waiting 2-3 months now. And that's indicative of the fact that we're a little lean on healthcare professionals. And I don't mean just doctors, it's nurses, it's the various technical positions, and even down to home health aides that can actually go in and help a senior age in place. We definitely need more bodies in all realms of healthcare services.
And when you talk about, healthcare services and other, how about other programs for our older, our senior centers and that? Do we have enough of those around for people?
Right now, but the demand is going to grow. There is an organization, the Moses Taylor Foundation in Scranton, that is working on funded a pilot project through the United Way at Lackawanna and Wayne County to look at senior isolation, because that's another factor in addressing how to support our seniors. If a senior's isolated, it affects their physical health, their mental health, and then of course increases the demand for all sorts of services. So that pilot program is just going to start to get off the ground now in March or April, and I think that's going to go a long way to supporting seniors and demonstrating the importance of social engagement for seniors.
Now, we're talking about this today, and you're going to present all of this information, and we have much more to talk about, but when you present this information, you are presenting in what is called the Indicators report, and you have a meeting, and that's coming up, and I just want to let everyone know when that is going to be.
May 19th. We're going to try and have a hybrid event so that if people want to participate in person, it'll be at the Mohegan Sun Pocono Convention Center, or if you register and say you want to stay home, we'll provide a link so that people can watch it from the comfort of their home and office.
Now, the people that are there that are going to be looking at this, what do they do with this information? Like, how do community leaders, what should they be looking at when they look at this information?
Well, we love to hear stories about how that research translates into action, and we hear from a lot of nonprofit organizations that they take the data and they use it as a basis to write grant applications to demonstrate where there's a problem or a need. And help them get a program or service funded. Local government can use that information because it is longitudinal. So we go back in time and look at the trends and changes to help them make more informed decisions regarding public services, public safety. We always show Lackawanna and Luzerne County as separate because we're trying to demonstrate that there has been consistent patterns or trends for the past 50 years. So what that tells me is if we have the same strengths, the same challenges, working collaboratively together should be a win-win. And that's one of the things that we're hoping comes out of every year's event is that there's increased regional collaboration and cooperation. I saw it work where I came from in Southern California. I really believe it could work here, and I really think everyone will benefit if we see more collaboration from all sectors.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss some more of the findings for the upcoming Indicators report. You can find information on today's program and other Newsmakers on pahomepage.com. We're under the Newsmakers link, and you are watching Newsmakers, a proud recipient of 3 Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasting Awards for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming and a Keystone State Award for Best Talk Show in the state. And we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Jayne Bugda, and the Institute is the topic of conversation today. They are responsible for the Indicators report that is getting ready to come out for 2022. I am joined by Teri Ooms. She is the Executive Director of the Institute, and we were talking about some very interesting findings here. So if anybody in business and industry is watching, or even if you're at home and you are someone looking to plan your own future, you're getting a good insight here from Teri. Now, one of the, we talk about some of your success stories. I thought one of the was transportation. And I know when you were here in the past, you joined us every year, and I know one of the findings was we needed nighttime transportation for people to get to work. And that came out of your findings. And it's still going on. When I see the buses going at night, I think that's because of the Institute.
Yes. Early on, we worked with the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia and their Economic Mobility Program that they partnered with the Scranton Area Community Foundation on to study transportation. We did some research, they did some research, we peer reviewed each other's, and to come up with some practical findings about a number of things, including why people aren't working. And transportation was a factor. Now, our indicators do state that about 10 or 11% of our regional population do not have a vehicle in the home. What we can't find out exactly is the percentage that have a vehicle, but the vehicle doesn't run or they can't afford to operate it. I'm sure that's about another 10%. So people do rely on public transportation, especially if you live outside of the urban core, like, for example, in Carbondale. But the challenge is public transportation runs Monday through Friday, 7 or 8 in the morning till 4, 5, or 6 at night. Well, if you work night times, swing shift, overnight, or even on the weekends, that public transportation isn't available. And you can't easily walk from, say, Carbondale to Dixon City to the Viewmont Mall or places like that, so you rely on public transportation. That was affecting people getting to work. It was affecting people getting to school, and it's a wild animal. It's very difficult to fund and keep afloat, but through a lot of our efforts and advocacy, then public transportation was expanded a little bit. There is some nighttime coverage, some additional weekend coverage that didn't exist before, so we were very excited to see that. We still have a long way to go, but the problem is more recognized now, and that mass transit could be one of the solutions.
And it's a blessing for probably people whose hours were cut short because they couldn't get to a job. So it's a sigh of relief probably for many people.
Yes.
And you don't know how many people probably lives you're touching through all of your work here. Another area that we've been talking a lot about is broadband. We became so reliant on the internet, especially with students and businesses and working from home because of COVID. How do we stand around here with broadband, internet?
Well, not as good as we can be. I do know that the governor recently appointed a commission to study it, and there is a ton of federal funding that could support it. And so I'm very excited about the prospect, because we understand that many areas aren't covered by broadband. Some areas where there is broadband, because there's so few carriers, it's not affordable. And we saw the problem manifest itself primarily in healthcare and education. So when everybody went remote, a lot of children were left behind because they didn't have broadband. Even though they were able to get equipment donated from the school, and some of the cable companies came out with some programs, they were still left behind. We also saw it in healthcare. When people couldn't get to primary care appointments or places shut down, an opportunity was through telehealth appointments, video appointments. But if you live in certain areas of our counties, you don't necessarily have the broadband available to sit and get that telehealth appointment, so you may miss some element of your primary care or a discussion with your doctor about something else. So it's a huge issue that we need to address, because broadband is truly one of our main forms of infrastructure.
When you've been doing this for many years now, and when you're looking at the research, is there something that has surprised you over the years in any of the research that you've done?
Not so much by the numbers. I think I was probably a little bit more taken aback about some of the barriers that people in our community face that are keeping them out of the workforce and things like that. Also, the difficulty in regional collaboration and cooperation. We have so many small municipal governments, so many different police forces and firefighters, and even though we're showing everybody that we're all facing the same thing, there's still been this apprehension about working together to solve problems. And I saw it in Southern California. I was a part of the initiative to fix it, and it worked. And that's my goal for us here, is to keep pushing for collaboration.
Is there any area that you cover a lot in this report, but is there any area you would like to see covered that maybe you don't cover right now?
In terms of research areas, there's a lot of indicators I think we could cover. We would love to have more granular information on health status in the region, on social services and things like that. Some of the information is available at the state or federal level. Some of it is just not available to us, and some of it just isn't collected regularly or timely. I had mentioned that the new data coming out that we're trying to build a report from, a lot of it is still 2019 and 2020. So that data lag is a challenge for everybody.
If someone's watching out there and they're with the business or a community leader and they say, you know, I'd like something studied, could they contact you about that?
Yes, I think one of the first stops is our website. We have a research hub and a data dashboard where a lot of information is always available, and then certainly an email to inquire.
And I just want to give one more time, this year's indicators report will be presented again on May
19th.
At Mohegan Sun, right? And you can either come in person or get sign up to get a Zoom link. That information we'll also have on our website on pahomepage.com. When are you going to start on 2023?
Oh boy, actually you might be surprised, but we start in July.
Oh, all right. Well, they're ready to roll. Okay. Well, Teri Ooms, thank you so much for being with us. You're so insightful and giving us a snapshot, a unique snapshot of our community. And we look forward to seeing you back here next year for another look at our region. So for everyone behind the scenes, I'm Jayne Bugda. We thank you for making Newsmakers part of your day. You can check us out on pahomepage.com. We're under the Newsmakers link, and we'll talk again next time.